Could you tell us about the your investigation of Peter Popoff?
Peter Popoff. There's a name to conjure with, to say the least. Yes, Peter Popoff. We went to investigate him. Steve Shaw, one of the Alpha Kids, was with us at the time. That was in, I believe, in San Francisco, if I remember correctly. Vast auditorium, monstrous auditorium, and he had the place had just jammed to the roof, and there were people waiting outside in the street. These people make money, and they attract a lot of attention. And Popoff was marching up and down and screeching in his inimitable fashion, and striking people on the forehead and whatnot. And I would be recognized, of course, so I stayed well backstage, and I sent Steve Shaw out there, and he walked around with a microphone. It wasn't connected, but he walked around with a microphone and appeared to be interviewing these people and getting close to Popoff. And at a certain point, he came rushing backstage, and he said, "Popoff's wearing a hearing aid." Now, this is a kind of hearing aid that's right in your ear canal, and it's not fed with wires. There are no wires. It's fed by an induction coil around the neck. So you see no connecting wires at all. And it has its own little battery in it and a receiver at the belt. And as we said afterward, it seemed incredible that Peter Popoff, who heals the deaf, requires a hearing aid. So we knew what our approach would be from then on. I asked a gentleman, Alec Jason, a friend of mine, who's a private investigator and electronics expert as well. I asked him to attend the second night of the Popoff Crusade at the same auditorium. And this went on for like 4 or 5 days at this auditorium. So he went in there, and his technique was to festoon himself with identification cards. And when the guards saw him coming, they just went, "Hey, go, 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 go," because they didn't want to read all of these cards, but he had his face on every one of them. As a private investigator, he had access to that sort of thing. And he had a tool bag with him, and electrical tools, apparently, and voltmeters and various other things like this. And he had a Walkman. Now, that Walkman was not a Walkman. He was actually receiving radio images from around the place. And he went earlier, well before the Popoff program started, and he recorded all of the frequencies that were used. Now, the cash register system, the intercoms of all kinds in the building and such use different frequencies. Right. He recorded each and every one of those frequencies. And then when the Popoff thing started, he simply went down the list of frequencies and found one, 37.4, I forgot what it was, frequency that had not been used until Popoff got there. Pardon me, edit. And on the basis of picking up this spurious frequency, he tuned in on it, recorded it. And of course it was Popoff's wife. "Hello, PD, this is your wife speaking. Can you hear me? If you can't, you're in deep trouble." The first woman is the, yes, I'll use the expression, the big black nigger in the back. This was their disrespect that these people had for their victims, from whom they were taking money. "And you keep your hands off those tits, Peter. I'm watching you." We've got that on tape. Believe it or not. This is the disrespect that Mrs. Popoff and Peter Popoff had for these people. And a gentleman with testicular cancer, a man the size of a melon, a huge tumor that he had, and the women in the control room with Popoff broadcasting it were laughing hysterically. "Look at those balls! Wow, that's a record! This is a man dying of testicular cancer in front of them. They're taking his money and his emotional security and such, and they're laughing at him." That's the kind of people these are, friends. I'm sorry to be so frank with you, but this is what we have. And this is this is the reason that I have to be offended by these people and to fight them tooth and nail.
That's very disturbing, actually. It really
is
awful.
Well, as Johnny Carson said on the program that I played you an excerpt of it the other night. See, what I didn't tell the audience was what Carson actually said. There was a point in the broadcast where you hear the audience laugh, and that's all toned down in the editing. But Carson had not been told about what the solution was to how Popoff was operating. He admitted to me in advance of the program before we went on the air that he was quite puzzled by it. How does Popoff know all these things, you see? And he was knowing them through the earpiece that he had in his ear. And when it was revealed during the program that Popoff had his wife speaking to him, Carson said, "Oh, shit!" And then he straightened up in the chair and he did this to the audience to keep them quiet, you see. And they hushed down after initial laughter. But that was edited out of the sound afterwards before the program was broadcast. And he apologized profusely to the audience afterwards. But that was his immediate reaction. It was a genuine, natural reaction. So these things happen. I mean, editing like that is not improper.
No,
I don't think.
I agree.
Certainly. I didn't want to embarrass Carson. He didn't want to embarrass himself and his audience.
I mean, but possibly even more disturbing than that is the fact that, as you were saying the other night, Popoff is now there raking the cash in again.
Yeah. He made last year, the actual bookkeeping records show, he made $10 million more than in the year that he was exposed by Carson. So people don't learn. They will not listen. They don't get the message at all.
Same kind of theme, I guess. I mean, you also showed us the clip of you doing the sleight of hand that underlies psychic surgery.
Oh, yes.
And again, that was broadcast on national television. I show that clip to my students every year, and it's a very, very effective demonstration.
Yes.
But the problem again was that you said that having got on TV, the reaction from the public was to try and find out where they could have it done.
Yes. All these calls, a couple of hundred calls came in saying, how do we contact the psychic surgeons in the Philippines? Not one of them said anything about how instructive this show was, or how revealing it was, or thank you. Or they all just wanted to know how to spend their money and lose their lives. How can I die by that same means? Please inform me.
And so, I mean, I guess that raises the big question. I mean, can skeptics achieve any kind of lasting victories in these kinds of areas?
Well, Chris, I'm encouraged. Yes, I think we can. I'm encouraged by the fact that 2 to 4 times a week, via postal mail or email or fax or any of various means, I get a communication which usually starts out, "Mr. Randi, at one time I was very much opposed to you and I thought you were a dreadful man, but then I looked into it," and it goes on from there. And it may also start out as something like that. "Thank you for having made a substantial change in my life. I now have a different attitude." And many of those will have phrases in later on. "Mind you, I'm not convinced of your stance on such and such." All I want, my goal with this whole campaign, is just to get people thinking. Have them ask questions. Have them think about what I have told them. Don't believe me any more than you believe these other people who make these claims. I'm making a claim too. It may or may not be true. Investigate it. Think about it. And think about it sensibly and rationally, and think about it long, and make a decision based on that. That's all I ask. And people do. We've got a raft of letters like that from usually young people, which pleases me no end. That's where you have to get them, of course.
Exactly. I mean, as I use a lot of your material in my teaching, and the bottom line is just think for yourselves, question everything.
Yes.
Question what I'm telling you, look at the evidence, and just, it's basically about trying to teach people how to think.
Yes.
And I mean, the material that you provided is pure gold. So thank you
and
for
go
that.
to authorities too. You say think for yourself. Yes, of course, think for yourself, but think and go to authority on this thing. And the kind of authority may not be the local psychologist down the street, because I've known all kinds of scientists, as we know, of course, who have believed in this sort of thing because they simply can't believe they're wrong and they're out of their expertise. Yeah. And a psychologist is not going to know conjuring techniques necessarily, but may. It's a matter of expertise.